Good morning. Thank you for joining today's webinar on conflict and anger management. We have found that conflict in the workplace is a very common concern. Over the next 30 minutes, we will talk about how to manage conflict skillfully so that you will be better prepared to manage conflict in your life and in the workplace. This webinar is set up to be interactive. We have worksheets and exercises to help you develop conflict management skills. So please have a pen and paper ready so you can participate in these exercises. Again, thank you for joining the webinar, and let's get started. What comes to mind when you think of the word conflict? How do you perceive conflict? For many, conflict immediately invokes thoughts of battle, shouting matches, or even negative relationships. Do you fear conflict or avoid it at all costs? Take a few minutes to answer questions on this slide. These questions are also available on your worksheet. If you need more time, you can pause your webinar. Otherwise, we're going to discuss the answers to some of these questions. We all have to deal with conflict at work and in our personal lives, whether in a one-on-one interaction, in meetings, or during negotiations. Conflict is manageable, although at times uncomfortable. In this webinar, we will discuss the best practices for conflict management and resolution. We will also provide you with communication tools that you will be able to apply to interactions and relationships today. Let's get started today with learning and integrating new conflict management skills. The purpose of our training today is to help you to become aware of common causes of workplace conflict and how it affects you and your company. To begin to view conflict as an opportunity for growth and development, learn 5 different personal conflict styles and how to adopt the most effective styles for each situation. Begin to take the positive steps needed for conflict resolution, and learn and apply effective communication skills that support conflict resolution. Let's begin by exploring what creates conflict in the workplace. Conflict arises over just about anything, both big and small, and often involves more than one source. The most common causes of conflict in the workplace are poor communication, different personalities or values, competition or power struggles, stress, which is often caused by lack of resources or information, and the inability to control one's emotions. It's important to note that conflict can be interpersonal or task-related. Now let's look at how conflict in the workplace affects you and your company. If conflict is not handled effectively, the results can be damaging. Conflicting goals can quickly turn into personal dislikes, teamwork breaks down, talent is wasted as people disengage from their work, and it's easy to end up in a vicious downward spiral of negativity. A few of the negative effects of poor conflict management include an increase in stress and anxiety, breakdown in teamwork, disruption in productivity, and low morale and job satisfaction. There's good news. By resolving conflict successfully, you can solve many of the problems that it has brought to the surface, as well as getting benefits that you might not at first expect. Some of the benefits of healthy conflict management include less stress and anxiety, an increase in understanding, the discussion needed to resolve conflict expands people's awareness of the situation and giving them insight into how they can achieve their own goals without undermining those of other people. Increased teamwork. When conflict is resolved effectively, team members can develop stronger mutual respect and a renewed faith in their ability to work together. With increased teamwork often comes increased productivity and creativity. If managed effectively, conflict can be viewed as an opportunity. Conflict is a natural part of relationships, human communication, and exists in every organization. The fact that conflict exists, however, is not necessarily a bad thing. It shouldn't be viewed as inherently negative or unhealthy. What matters is how one manages conflict with others. As long as it is resolved effectively, it can lead to personal and professional growth. Learn to view conflict as an opportunity to solve problems and reach an agreement rather than battle to be won. As you begin to change your perspective on conflict as opportunity for growth and development, it's important to learn your preferred and often habitual style for dealing with conflict. Because no two individuals have exactly the same expectations and desires, conflict is a natural part of our interactions with others. Individuals tend to have a personal and habitual way of dealing with conflict, which can take over when they are under pressure. Sometimes it's the most productive style for resolving the conflict, but very often it's not and simply worsens the situation. A first step in dealing with conflict is to discover your preferred conflict styles and subsequently learn how to manage a variety of situations using different approaches. The Thomas Kilmann Conflict Model instrument is a model that identifies 5 common styles for dealing with conflict that vary in degrees of cooperativeness and assertiveness. This model has been the worldwide leader in assessing conflict handling behavior for almost 40 years. These styles have 2 basic dimensions, assertiveness and cooperation. Assertiveness, which relates to behaviors intended to satisfy one's own concern, this dimension is also correlated to attaining one's goal. Cooperativeness, which relates to behaviors intended to satisfy the other's concerns, the dimension can also be tracked as being concerned with relationships. A combination of these dimensions result in 5 conflict behaviors. Competing, meaning may the best person win, which is a combination of assertiveness and uncooperative. Avoiding, which is hiding our heads in the sand, hoping the conflict will go away, is unassertive and uncooperative. Compromising, which is finding the middle ground whereby a little is given and a little is gotten, is moderate in both assertiveness and cooperativeness. Collaborating, meaning working together to find mutual beneficial solution, is both assertive and cooperative. And accommodating, which means surrendering your own needs and wishes to please the other person, which is considered unassertive and cooperative. It's generally believed that either collaboration or compromise are the most productive forms of addressing conflict because there is not a winner or loser, but rather a working together for the best possible solution. Once you understand the different styles, you can use them to think about the most appropriate approach or mixture of approaches for the situations you're in. You can also think about your own instinctive approach and learn how you need to change this if necessary. Ideally, you can adopt an approach that meets the situation, resolves the problems, respects people's legitimate interests, and mends damaged working relationships. So take a few minutes now to assess your conflict styles. You can use your webinar worksheet, or you can write on a separate piece of paper. So when faced with a conflict, which style do you most often adopt? You can recall a recent event where you had a conflict in the workplace or in your personal lives. And what style did you utilize? What style did the other person utilize? And was the conflict resolved effectively? So now that you have identified your style and explored the other styles, let's move on to the positive action steps towards conflict resolution. Conflict management is the practice of being able to identify and handle conflicts sensibly, fairly, and efficiently. Since conflict in a business are a natural part of the workplace, it's important that there are people who understand conflicts and how to resolve them. Arriving at a positive resolution is always the ultimate goal. So in step 1, at the bottom of the screen, set the ground rules. So you can establish ground rules before the conflict resolution process begins. A set of ground rules should be distributed to all participants. Examples of ground rules could be avoid generalizations, stay on topic, remain seated at all times, take a timeout if needed, listen when others are speaking, no interruptions. Each organization can tailor the ground rules to its particular business based on the types of conflict and the most common scenarios that disrupt the process of effective communication. In step 2, identifying the root cause. So identifying the root causes of a conflict, you can begin to unravel the potential negativity in conflict and look towards progress until you determine the source of the issue. In step 3, you look at the issue from all sides, inspect the positive and negative factors that each party sees to fully comprehend what is at stake. In step 4, you can brainstorm solutions, devise a complete list of actions to address the issue, ensure that each party believes that he or she has had input in the final product or design. And in step 5, decide on the steps that best address and resolve the issue. Again, all parties need to see that they have had input into these steps. And final step, step 6, agree on whatever the next steps are necessary to implement the mutually agreed upon action. And review the process that you can use to arrive at the final decision, hoping to implement a similar successful plan when negative conflict next arises. This process relies on the effective communication skills of each person involved in order to move through the steps and reach a resolution. Let's explore effective communication skills for conflict management. Effective communication helps us better understand a person or a situation and enables us to resolve differences, build trust and respect, and create environments where creative ideas, problem solving can flourish. It's as simple as communication seems. Much of what we try to communicate to others and what others try to communicate to us gets misunderstood, which can cause conflict and frustration in personal and professional relationships. By learning these effective communication skills, you can better connect with coworkers and supervisors. The goal of effective communication is to find a healthy balance between your intellect and your emotions, between thinking and feeling. It takes time and effort to develop these skills and become an effective communicator. The more effort and practice you put in, the more instinctive and spontaneous your communication skills will become. The 4 communication skills we will be reviewing today are listening, nonverbal communication, emotional awareness, and managing stress. Active listening. So listening is one of the most important aspects of effective communication. Successful listening means not just understanding the words or the information being communicated, but also understanding how the speaker feels about what they're communicating. If your goal is to fully understand and connect with the other person, listening effectively will often come naturally. If it doesn't, you can remember the following tips. The more you practice them, the more satisfying and rewarding your interactions with others will become. So you want to fully focus on the speaker. You want to pay attention to their body language, to their nonverbal cues. If you're daydreaming, checking text messages, doodling, you're almost certain to miss nonverbal cues in the conversation. If you find it hard to concentrate on some speakers, try repeating their words over in your head. It will reinforce their message and help you stay focused. Show your interest in what's being said. Nod occasionally, smile at the person, and make sure your posture is open and inviting. Encourage the speaker to continue with small verbal comments like yes and uh-huh. Avoid interrupting or trying to redirect the conversation to your concerns by saying something like, if you think that's bad, let me tell you what happened to me. Listening is not the same as waiting for your turn. You can't concentrate on what someone's saying if you're forming what you're going to say next. Often, the speaker can read your facial expressions and knows that your mind is elsewhere. Avoid seeming judgmental. So in order to communicate effectively with someone, you don't have to like them or agree with their ideas, values, or opinions. However, you do need to set aside your judgment and withhold blame and criticism in order to fully understand a person. The most difficult communication, when successfully executed, can lead to the most unlikely and profound connection with someone. And then clarify understanding by asking questions, reflecting, and paraphrasing to ensure you understand the message. When we communicate things that we care about, we do so mainly using nonverbal signals. Wordless communication or body language includes facial expressions, body movement, and gestures. Eye contact, posture, the tone of your voice, and even your muscle tension and breathing. The way you look, listen, move, and react to another person tells them more about how you're feeling than words alone ever can. A famous study by Albert Mehrabian found that nonverbal language makes up 55% of how we communicate face-to-face. He also concluded that we communicate as much as 38% of our messages through our voice, meaning tone, pitch, and so on, with as little as 7% through the words that we actually say. So developing the ability to understand and use nonverbal communication can help you to connect with others, express what you really mean, navigate challenging situations, and build better relationships at home and work. You can enhance effective communication by using open body language. So check your arms, make sure they're uncrossed. You want to stand with an open stance or sitting on the edge of your seat leaning forward. How many of you have ever held a meeting to find the other team members slouching in their chairs with their arms folded? This communicates that the recipients are uninterested or may not be paying attention, even if that's untrue. The folding of arms says that you are not open to what others have to say, and slouching says that you're bored or discouraged. Use nonverbal signals that match up with your words. Nonverbal communication should reinforce what is being said, not contradict it. If you say one thing but your body language says something else, your listener will likely feel you're being dishonest. For example, you can't say yes while shaking your head no. Maintaining eye contact with the person you're talking to. So looking at a person in the eyes while they're talking is often considered the ultimate form of respect. Eye contact, or lack thereof, is the first telltale sign of whether you think a person is worthy of your attention. By looking someone in their eyes, you are telling them that what they are saying is important and understood. And tone. This is communicating with your voice and when not using your words. Through pitch, volume, inflection, tone of voice provides powerful clues into your true feelings. For example, tone of voice is a quick indicator of sarcasm, confidence, frustration, or agreement. In small doses, stress can help you perform under pressure. However, when stress becomes constant and overwhelming, it can dampen effective communication by disrupting your capacity to think clearly and creatively and act appropriately. When you're stressed, you're more likely to misread other people, send confusing or off-putting nonverbal signals, and lapse into unhealthy knee-jerk patterns of behavior. Being able to manage and relieve stress in the moment is the key to staying balanced, focused, and in control, no matter what challenges you face. If you don't know how to stay centered and in control of yourself, you will become overwhelmed in conflict situations and unable to respond in healthy ways. Stress interferes with the ability to resolve conflict by limiting your ability to accurately read another person's nonverbal communication, hear what someone is really saying, be aware of your own feelings, be in touch with your deep-rooted needs, and stress can also interfere with your ability to communicate your needs clearly. To deal with stress during communication, recognize when you've become stressed. Your body will let you know if you're stressed as you communicate. Your muscles or your stomach will tighten up, your hands will be clenched, your breathing will be shallow. Are you forgetting to breathe perhaps? Take a moment to calm down before deciding to continue a conversation. Bring your senses to the rescue and quickly manage stress by taking a few deep breaths, clenching and relaxing muscles, or recalling a soothing image of a better time that will help to relax you. The best way to rapidly and reliably relieve stress is through the senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. But each person responds differently to sensory input, so you need to find things that are soothing for you. Look for humor in the situation. When used appropriately, humor is a great way to relieve stress when communicating. When you or those around you start taking things too seriously, finding a way to lighten the mood by sharing a joke or an amusing story. Be willing to compromise. Sometimes, if you can both bend a little, you'll be able to find a happy middle ground that reduces the stress levels for everyone concerned. Agree to disagree. If necessary, take time away from the situation so everyone can calm down. Take a quick break and move away from the situation. Go for a stroll, spend a few minutes meditating. Physical movement or finding a quiet place to regain your balance can quickly reduce stress. Emotional awareness is the key to understanding yourself and others. If you don't know how you feel or why you feel that way, you won't be able to communicate effectively or resolve disagreements. Although knowing your feelings may sound simple, many people ignore or try to sedate strong emotions like anger, sadness, and fear. Your ability to handle conflict, however, depends on being connected to these feelings. If you're afraid of strong emotions, or if you insist on finding solutions that are strictly rational, your ability to face and resolve differences will be impaired. Emotional awareness helps you to understand what is really troubling other people, helps you to understand yourself, including what's really troubling you. It helps you to stay motivated until the conflict is resolved. It helps you to communicate clearly and effectively, and it helps you to attract and influence others. Emotional awareness is a skill that, with patience and practice, can be learned at any time in life. You can develop emotional awareness by learning how to get in touch with difficult emotions and manage uncomfortable feelings. When you know how to do this, you can remain in control of your emotions and behavior, even in challenging situations, and communicate more clearly and effectively. Conflict is rife with emotion. One that we frequently encounter is anger. While it is often a secondary emotion that is initially triggered by fear, anger is more visible and can trigger ineffective responses to conflict. Let's dive a little deeper into this emotion and learn effective ways to manage it. So understanding anger. Anger is a normal emotion, but it is important to keep your feelings in check to prevent a situation from escalating. The emotion of anger is neither good nor bad. It's perfectly healthy and normal to feel angry when you've been mistreated or wronged. The feeling isn't the problem, it's what you do with that feeling that makes a difference. Anger becomes a problem when it harms you or harms others. If you have a hot temper, you may feel like it's out of your hands and there's little you can do to tame yourself, but you have more control over your anger than you think. You can learn to express your emotions without hurting others, and when you do, you'll not only feel better, you'll also be more likely to get your needs met. Mastering the art of anger management takes work, but the more you practice, the easier it will get, and the payoff can be huge. Learning to control your anger and express it appropriately can help you build better relationships, achieve your goals, and lead a healthier, more satisfying life. With the following insights and tools, you can learn to keep your temper from hijacking the situation. So use your worksheet now under Effective Communication Skills and rate how often you use the following skills. At the end of the exercise, look at the skills that you tend to use less, and those are the areas where you might want to try some of the techniques we talked about to increase those skills with your communication. So take a few minutes now to go over the worksheet. You can pause this training if you need more time. Okay. So let's discuss a few tools for managing your anger during conflict. Understand your conflict hot button and triggers. Most people have heard of the phrase pushing your buttons. Learning more about what angers you lessens the chances of being surprised or blindsided in conflict settings. Enhancing self-awareness in conflict triggers is an important step in managing future conflicts. Be aware of the physical warning signs of anger. So anger fuels the fight or flight systems of the body, and the angrier you get, the more your body goes into overdrive. Becoming aware of your own personal signs that your temper is starting to boil allows you to take steps to manage your anger before it gets out of control. Pay attention to the way anger feels in your body. For some people, they feel it in their stomach. Other people feel that they find their hands clench or their jaw clenches, their breathing gets faster, maybe they get headaches, maybe they can't concentrate, their heart starts to pound, or there's some tension in their shoulders. So on your worksheet, you can identify your trigger and areas and common warning signs. So take a few minutes now to write down your common triggers and hot button issues when it comes to anger, and take a few minutes to identify your warning signs. So where in your body are you feeling the anger first? Okay, if you need more time, you can press pause now. Otherwise, we're going to talk about ways to cool down. So once you know how to recognize the warning signs that your temper is rising and you can anticipate your triggers, you can act quickly to deal with your anger before it spins out of control. So one of the techniques is deep breathing. So you want to take in a slow breath and you want to exhale slowly as well. You want to make sure it's full breath deep into your stomach, and you want to make sure that you get all the air in and out as quickly as possible. Other things that you can do to exercise, so go for a quick walk to release some of that tension that you've built up. You can also use your senses. So if some of you have you can look at calming pictures on the internet. Maybe some of you like to smell calming fragrances or listen to calming music, or maybe even have some type of food or coffee that might help to just relax you, or maybe even some tea. You can do some stretching. some gentle stretching exercises to release some of the tension in your shoulders or parts of your body that get tense. And then you can also just do the old-fashioned counting to 10 slowly. You can also take a time out. So taking a time out is a classic anger management tool. It sounds simple, but it can be quite challenging to implement in the heat of the moment to stop yourself and take that time out. You can find healthier ways to express your anger. When communicating respectfully and channeled effectively, anger can be a tremendous source of energy and inspiration for change. So you can pinpoint what you're really angry about by asking yourself that question and identify the real source of the frustration, which will help you to communicate your anger better and take constructive action and work towards a resolution. So key points to remember. Conflict is normal in the workplace. Resolving conflict effectively can lead to personal and professional growth. Collaboration or compromise are the most productive forms of addressing conflict. Conflict management is the practice of being able to identify and handle conflict sensibly, fairly, and efficiently, and learning to control your anger and express it appropriately takes practice. So thank you for joining today's webinar. If you have any questions or if we can be of further assistance, please give us a call. Our number is 1-800-445-1195 or locally at 401-732-9444. Remember, Coastline EAP is here for you and your family for additional consultation on legal, financial, child care, and elder care issues. And that concludes our training for today. Thank you and take care.